Welcome to day 4, week 4 of the course, Campus Recruitment Training. Today, we will focus on common GD mistakes and handling the discussion. Listen to this story. It was the peak of placement season at Riverdale Institute of Technology. A well-known multinational company was on campus to recruit candidates for its management training program. As part of the selection process, a group discussion round was organized with the topic, "Should work from home continue post-pandemic?" Among the group of 8 students was Rahul, who was known for his academic performance but had limited experience in group interactions. As soon as the discussion started, he jumped in with a strong opinion, speaking rapidly and without pause. In his eagerness to make an impression, he interrupted others, raised his voice to be heard, and tried to dominate the conversation. The panel watched closely, taking notes not just on what was being said, but how it was being said. Another participant, Sneha, had solid ideas but remained silent for the first few minutes. She looked uncertain and avoided eye contact. By the time she tried to enter the discussion, it had already become intense and she was quickly overshadowed. Her contributions were brief and hesitant. The panel could barely hear her point of view. Meanwhile, Akshay observed everything. When the discussion began, he let others speak first. He listened carefully, noted key arguments, and waited for the right moment. When two participants began to argue heatedly over productivity statistics, Akshay intervened with a calm tone. He said, "Both of you bring valuable insights, but let us take a step back and look at how different industries are approaching remote work." His intervention helped refocus the group. His voice was steady, his posture upright, and his gestures natural. He did not overpower the group, but steered it back on track with respect and clarity. Akshay also noticed that Sneha had not spoken much. He turned to her and said, "Sneha, would you like to add something from your perspective on employee engagement?" Encouraged, Sneha responded confidently with a concise and thoughtful point. This act of inclusion impressed the recruiters. When the discussion ended, Akshay offered a brief summary of the arguments made, mentioning contributions from different members. He concluded by saying that remote work is not a one-size-fits-all model, and a hybrid future may offer the flexibility and structure needed by modern workplaces. Later, during feedback, the panel discussed the session. Rahul was marked down for being aggressive and interrupting others. Sneha was recognized for her content but was noted as needing more confidence and presence. Akshay was praised for his maturity, leadership, and ability to handle difficult moments in the discussion with composure. This story became an example for future batches. It highlighted that common mistakes in GDs include interrupting others, speaking without structure, failing to participate, or showing nervous body language. It also showed that handling difficult situations requires patience, emotional intelligence, and the willingness to listen. Akshay's performance reminded everyone that in a GD it is not about dominating but about contributing meaningfully, supporting others, and guiding the group with balance and respect. In campus recruitment, group discussions often act as the first filter for identifying candidates with not just knowledge but also team behavior, communication skills, and problem-solving abilities. Many students prepare their content but overlook how they conduct themselves in a group setting. Understanding the common mistakes and learning how to handle difficult situations during a GD can significantly improve performance. One of the most frequent mistakes is interrupting others mid-sentence. While enthusiasm is appreciated, cutting someone off shows poor listening and lack of patience. For example, if a candidate jumps in with their point just as another is completing a thought, it creates tension and disrupts the flow. A better approach is to wait for a pause and then add value by saying to build on that point, or another way to look at it could be. Another common error is speaking without structure. Candidates often rush to say something without organizing their thoughts. This leads to vague arguments or repetition. A clear structure such as point, example, explanation, or problem, cause, solution helps convey ideas with clarity. Recruiters appreciate participants who speak briefly but meaningfully over those who ramble without direction. Being overly aggressive is also a major pitfall. Some participants believe they need to dominate the conversation to be noticed. They raise their voice, dismiss others' views, and try to control the discussion. This behavior is counterproductive. Recruiters are not looking for loud voices, but for balanced communicators who know when to lead and when to listen. A respectful tone and calm demeanor are often more persuasive than forceful speech. Remaining silent throughout the discussion is equally problematic. Some candidates feel nervous or wait too long for the perfect moment to speak. By the time they gather courage, the discussion is nearly over. Even one or two well-placed contributions can demonstrate initiative and thoughtfulness. Practicing mock JDs and entering early with a neutral observation can help overcome this hesitation. There are also situations when the discussion becomes chaotic. Participants speak over one another, repeat points, or argue emotionally. In such moments, a composed participant who says, "Let us hear one person at a time," or "Can we refocus on the topic," shows presence of mind and leadership. Bringing order to the discussion is valued more than trying to win an argument. Directly calling them wrong, a mature response could be, "I had read a different statistic on this in a recent report which said," or perhaps, "We can double check the source." This avoids conflict and keeps the tone respectful. Sometimes group dynamics shift and certain members dominate the discussion while others get sidelined. A candidate who says, "We have not heard from a few people yet," or invites someone to contribute displays team spirit. This is a powerful gesture that reflects emotional intelligence and awareness. Handling disagreement is another test in a GD. Instead of saying, "I completely disagree," a better approach would be, "I see where you are coming from, but I have a different perspective based on this reasoning." Such phrases reduce defensiveness and keep the conversation constructive. Finally, nonverbal mistakes like poor posture, avoiding eye contact, fidgeting, or staring at the table can weaken the impact of good content. Sitting straight, making eye contact while listening and speaking, using natural hand gestures, and staying alert throughout the session improve overall presence. In conclusion, common GD mistakes such as interrupting, dominating, lacking structure, or staying silent can all be managed with self-awareness and preparation. Difficult situations like conflict, chaos, or misinformation can be handled through respectful language, calm tone, and inclusive behavior. Group discussions are not just about expressing opinions, but about navigating group dynamics with confidence, clarity, and empathy. Candidates who understand this balance are often the ones who stand out and move forward in the recruitment process. Let us now look at the real-life examples from campus recruitment settings that illustrate common group discussion mistakes and how difficult situations were handled effectively. First example, the mistake of interrupting and the power of timing. During a group discussion at a premier business school, the topic was, "Should India focus on urban development or rural infrastructure?" One candidate named Rohit kept interrupting others midway to insert his point. He assumed that speaking first and often would show leadership. However, his interruptions created discomfort and the panel noted signs of irritation among the other participants. Another candidate, Shalini, waited for others to finish and then used a simple transition like, "I agree with the concern raised about urban priorities, and I would like to add how rural innovation plays an equal role." Her calm tone and respectful timing made her voice more impactful. While Rohit was not shortlisted, Shalini advanced to the final interview for her maturity in group dynamics. While Rohit was not shortlisted, Shalini advanced to the final interview for her maturity in group dynamics. Second example, the mistake of repetition and the strategy of redirection. At a leading engineering college, a tech company conducted a GD with a topic, "Is online learning as effective as traditional classrooms?" After a few minutes, several participants began repeating similar points about flexibility and internet access. The discussion was losing momentum. A student named Arvind redirected the conversation by saying, "While we have spoken about the advantages, we haven't discussed how online learning affects long-term retention and attention span." He shifted the focus to a fresh angle and encouraged others to respond. The recruiter appreciated his ability to revive the discussion and marked him as someone who could think beyond the obvious. Third example, the mistake of aggression and the role of conflict management. In a finance domain group discussion on the topic, "Should cryptocurrencies be regulated?" two participants began to argue loudly over the role of government policy. The conversation became intense. A third participant, Nidhi, stepped in and said, "Both of you are raising valid points, and perhaps we can explore how different countries are approaching crypto regulation to broaden the discussion." Our neutral tone and inclusive approach diffused the tension and helped the group refocus. The recruiter later remarked that Nidhi showed leadership under pressure and selected her for the next round, while the two aggressive debaters were not shortlisted despite their content knowledge. Fourth example, the mistake of staying silent and the impact of a timely entry. At a design school placement round, the GD topic was, "Can minimalism solve modern lifestyle problems?" A student named Aman stayed quiet for most of the session, unsure when to speak. Near the end, he finally contributed by linking the topic to product design and user behavior, an angle no one had explored. He added a relevant real-world example and connected it to his own academic project. Though he spoke only once, the quality and timing of his point impressed the panel. He was shortlisted for the interview, while others who spoke more but repeated points were not. Fifth example, the mistake of ignoring others and the power of inclusion. At a law school recruitment group discussion, the topic was, should media trials be restricted? A candidate named Ishan dominated the conversation, barely acknowledging others. In contrast, another participant named Ria listened actively and said, I noticed that Ankit has a legal perspective that could enrich his discussion. Would you like to share your thoughts? This small act of inclusion showed confidence, awareness, and group sensitivity. The panel recognized Ria's ability to lead without overshadowing and selected her for demonstrating team spirit in a competitive setting. These real-life examples show that common group discussion mistakes such as interrupting, dominating, staying silent, or losing focus can be avoided through thoughtful participation. Candidates who handle difficult situations with poise, show respect for others, and add unique value to the conversation are often remembered and rewarded in the campus recruitment process. Let us now look at the case studies from actual campus recruitment experiences that illustrate common group discussion mistakes and how difficult situations were handled effectively. First case study, mistake of dominating the discussion. At a business school in Delhi, a marketing company held GDs for management trainee roles. The topic was, is consumer loyalty dead in the digital age? Among the participants was a student named Karthik, who entered the discussion early and spoke continuously. He interrupted others, raised his voice to assert his opinions, and dismissed counter views with phrases like, that's incorrect, or I don't agree at all. The discussion became tense and one-sided. While his knowledge was evident, his style created discomfort. Another student, Sneha, participated fewer times but spoke calmly, acknowledged others' inputs, and offered a structured counterpoint. The panel did not shortlist Karthik despite his content because of his aggressive behavior. Sneha was selected for showing composure, emotional intelligence, and respect for group dynamics. Second case study, mistake of repeating points without adding value. At a leading engineering institute, a fintech company conducted a GD round on the topic, is digital currency better than physical currency? Many students kept repeating points about convenience and security. A student named Ramesh repeated similar lines 3 times using slightly different words. A participant named Meena observed the repetition and introduced a fresh angle by discussing the environmental impact of printing currency versus blockchain energy consumption. This shifted the discussion to a new dimension. Meena was shortlisted for driving the discussion forward, while Ramesh was marked down for lack of depth and originality. Third case study, mistake of staying silent due to nervousness. During a recruitment round at a liberal arts college, the GD topic was, should censorship be allowed in the arts? A student named Ankit remained silent for most of the discussion. He had strong views but was unsure how to enter the fast-paced conversation. Towards the end, the moderator reminded the group of last 2 minutes. Ankit finally contributed with a well-structured point linking censorship to creative freedom and cited an example from a recent court ruling. His insight was sharp and his voice confident. Although he spoke only once, his content and timing helped him secure a shortlist. The panel noted that sometimes a strong closing can outweigh early silence if delivered thoughtfully. Fourth case study, handling conflict during a heated debate. At a technology institute, a manufacturing company hosted a GD with the topic, automation will eliminate more jobs than it creates. The discussion grew heated when 2 participants started shouting over each other. The rest of the group grew quiet. A candidate named Divya intervened with a calm voice and said, both of you have important points, but let's not lose the chance to explore the wider impact on upskilling and new job creation. She steered the group away from confrontation and back to constructive debate. Her ability to mediate and redirect focus impressed the panel. She was shortlisted while the louder participants were not. Fifth case study, handling misinformation gracefully. In a commerce college placement round, the topic was, is the Indian economy resilient to global shocks? A candidate named Nikhil quoted a GDP growth rate that was outdated and inaccurate. Another participant, Priya, had up-to-date data but chose not to confront him directly. Instead, she said, I came across a recent RBI report that suggests a slightly different figure, showing a recovery pattern in the last 2 quarters. This respectful correction avoided embarrassment and brought the focus back to facts. The recruiters praised her for balancing accuracy with diplomacy and selected her for the next round. These case studies show that mistakes in GDs, such as dominating, repeating, staying silent, arguing, or presenting wrong information, are common but can be corrected or managed with the right strategy. Candidates who show self-awareness, adaptability, and emotional control consistently stand out in campus recruitment settings.